Por gentileza, peço a todos que tomem seus lugares. Convido agora para presidir a sessão o professor Michael Calmano.
I know this would be considered to be unusual and cruel punishment, but we do have to continue in order to finish on time. Could I ask the panelists to come up to the stage? Professor Thérèse Lebrun, Father Thomas, Professor Thomas, and Professor Greg Craven. Please come up. Okay, let's begin. It's not going to be a monologue, it's going to be a dialogue of the disciplines. And we are trying to establish knowledge connections. If all of us work in universities and we know how difficult it can be to have a dialogue between disciplines and between faculties, they usually don't even talk to each other. So today we will set a real example of the spirit of the Catholic universities, various disciplines, and knowledge connections talking to each other. And I think I will ask Thérèse to be the first speaker. One more announcement. There's not much time. We'll try to finish at 11:45 and have coffee break. After that, go into the workshops, and the workshops should end by 12:30 in order to lunch.
Bonjour à tous. Nous avons un sujet, pas beaucoup de temps, mais l'importance de dialoguer. Et donc, peut-être que mon propos sera trop synthétique et sans nuance, mais je le ferai premièrement à partir de l'expérience que je connais la moins mal, qui est celle de l'Université catholique de Lille, qui a la chance d'être une université complète, pluridisciplinaire, avec des dimensions bien sûr d'enseignement supérieur et de recherche, mais également une importante activité dans le domaine de la santé, du soin, à travers des hôpitaux. Et comme nous sommes appelés en tant qu'université catholique à une formation intégrale et intégrée, au sens anglais de comprehensive, je pense que les illustrations que je vais prendre seront quelques flashs qui nous permettront de voir comment connecter les savoirs ou faire dialoguer les disciplines. j'ai pris 6 illustrations. La première, elles sont sans ordre particulier, c'est la mise en œuvre d'instituts transversaux dans notre université. Un institut transversal, ça n'est ni une faculté, ni une école. Ce sont des instituts qui empruntent à différentes disciplines et également à différentes de nos institutions fédérées pour développer de la formation, de la recherche, du service à la société, mais aussi l'implication des étudiants. 4 exemples d'instituts. L'Institut de l'entrepreneuriat, celui du développement durable et responsable, qui va faire travailler ensemble des élèves ingénieurs, économistes, juristes, des personnes qui travaillent dans le domaine de l'éthique. Également, et l'on vient d'en parler, le souhait de développer des travaux en ingénierie pédagogique, nouveaux enseignants, nouveaux étudiants, nouveaux outils, comment transformer et accepter ce changement avec discernement. Le 4e des instituts transversaux, c'est celui que nous avons souhaité consacrer au handicap et à la dépendance, au vieillissement de la population. Et là, sont concernés aussi bien sûr, les enseignants et étudiants du monde sanitaire et médico-social, mais aussi des psychologues, des ingénieurs qui vont s'intéresser à la robotique et à la domotique dans ce domaine du handicap et de la dépendance, nos ingénieurs en agronomie et en agriculture sur les questions de la nutrition, mais également nos théologiens sur la question de la vulnérabilité ou de la précarité des personnes âgées et handicapées, ou nos juristes sur les questions intergénérationnelles ou les questions de tutelle et de curatelle. Et puis c'est pour nous, confère les questions posées hier par Birgit Kleiman, une façon d'honorer l'option pour les plus pauvres. Le plus pauvre étant dans ce cas celui qui se trouve en situation de handicap ou de dépendance. Deuxième illustration, nous essayons de rapprocher les disciplines face à des problèmes complexes. Je ne fais que citer les thématiques socio-économie et santé, socio-économie de la santé, environnement, géologie et santé, nano-biotechnologie, ou encore, dans certains de nos instituts, transactions internationales, commerce et langue, sciences appliquées, langue et internationale. Et, sous l'égide de l'Université catholique de Lyon, toute une réflexion sur sciences et humanité. Il nous faut former des jeunes accomplis. Troisième illustration, la nécessité d'introduire dans tous les enseignements les dimensions éthiques, philosophiques, théologiques. Nous avons la chance d'avoir un département d'éthique qui travaille à la fois en éthique économique et financière, en éthique médicale et bioclinique, dans le domaine technologique, dans le domaine de la famille et du sujet contemporain. Tout cela doit être introduit dans nos enseignements, mais suppose aussi que les enseignants en éthique et les enseignants dans les différentes disciplines puissent se rencontrer, échanger, travailler ensemble, voire enseigner ensemble. Quatrième illustration, l'importance de la dimension culturelle dans l'université, qui est une occasion de connecter de façon agréable les approches, les savoirs, les points de vue. À Lille, nous avons été capitale culturelle en 2004. Mais la maire de Lille, Martine Aubry, a souhaité poursuivre la dimension culturelle de cette métropole au nord de la France. Et notre Université catholique de Lille a décidé de s'y associer. Deux exemples, une exposition sur handicap et art brut, ce qui permet de marier art et médiation culturelle, le médico-social à travers le handicap mental, les travaux d'un département de psychologie. Deuxième illustration qui touchera l'année 2012-2013, le thème du fantastique a été choisi à Lille et nous y travaillerons du point de vue du cinéma, de l'art, de la médecine, merci, de la médecine, puisqu'on peut connaître des situations de maladies entre guillemets monstrueuses, la littérature ou la théologie, confère l'Apocalypse. Je vais réduire le nombre d'exemples. Il faut introduire aussi de nombreuses matières optionnelles et transversales dans nos enseignements pour donner à nos étudiants des capacités de réflexion, de recherche de transcendance, d'apprentissage de la relation à soi et à l'autre, et leur donner aussi le goût de l'histoire, des cultures et des religions, ou de la géopolitique. Et le processus européen de LMD nous permet d'introduire ces matières optionnelles. Je terminerai sur des obstacles et des encouragements dans les 2 minutes qui restent. Les obstacles. Tout d'abord, nous sommes encore très disciplinaires. Deuxièmement, les concours et les classements ne tiennent pas compte de cette interdisciplinarité et ceux qui s'y lancent s'éloignent des scores dans les rankings. Troisième élément, la question du temps consacré possiblement à connecter ces savoirs et à faire dialoguer ces disciplines. Cela a un coût en temps et donc en argent. Argent qui nous manque tous. C'est aussi l'exigence pour les enseignants. C'est un autre rapport pédagogique, la précédente table ronde l'a bien montré. Au cours de ces 3 jours, nous nous sommes interrogés sur comment former les nouveaux étudiants en nous éloignant des diktats, des cultes, comment former les enseignants, mais nous savons que nous sommes tiraillés entre des contradictions. Nous disions hier, non pas seulement que veut le monde, mais de quoi a-t-il besoin? Au fond, ces tiraillements et ces contradictions sont un peu notre croix. Et pour terminer, disons que beaucoup reste à faire et sur tous les fronts. Tant mieux si notre monde est réinterrogé. Cela signifie que les chantiers sont nombreux et grands ouverts, mais qu'il nous faudra mettre en œuvre beaucoup des caractéristiques auxquelles sont particulièrement appelées nos universités catholiques, y compris à travers notre tradition évangélique et chrétienne, à savoir le courage, la créativité, l'humilité, l'écoute et le sens de l'autre et le discernement. Merci.
And I give the floor and the microphone to Father Thomas.
Good morning. I'm representing India. This is the first time I'm in Brazil. When I reached Brazil, I was just looking into the similarities in Brazil and India. Both are tropical countries. In 1599, Vasco da Gama, the Portuguese, opened the entire European world. Almost the same time, Brazil was opened to the entire world, so a lot of similarities. What is the major difference? I was just reflecting. Brazil is having 200 million people. India, 1.2 billion people. So we are the largest democracy in the world, and 1.2 billion and 200 million. Why I want to say, when we talk on the policies and the strategies, we have to look into venue, what we are going to speak and how the situation is. From India, we are around more than 300 Catholic institutions of higher education. We are representing only 4 here, Jesus and Mary from New Delhi, and Stella Matt is from Chennai, Rajagiri College from Cochin, and Christ from Bangalore. So these are the representations of the country. Between north and south, between east and west, a lot of differences. And 20 languages, living languages, official languages. States are created based on languages and cultures. So when we are talking on the policy of a country, I'm representing India, the complexity of the responsibility is very high. So since we are all limited, so Jesus and Mary in New Delhi, under New Delhi University, Stella Maris under Chennai Madras University, and Rajagiri College under Mahatma Gandhi University, and Christ University is an independent university. All these four institutions represented in this body are three types. So what I'm going to talk on this interdisciplinarity is from my little experience of this university, that is Christ University, Bangalore. So the highest body of India in higher education is University Grants Commission, that name got from the British and started in 1956. And we have a higher education tradition of only 150 years. So compared to Europe, young in higher education. And only after independence of the country, or at least 50 years, we are creating a difference in the European model. So what I want to try to tell you is interdisciplinarity, very important in our concepts today. But it is expressed differently by different institutions. But most important thing, we believe a university is a place of knowledge creation. A university is a place for knowledge dissemination. And university is a place where we create knowledge producers, future knowledge producers. All these three tasks are very important and very difficult. Unfortunately, I am a chemistry person. If somebody has to get a chemistry PhD, it should be aligned to the chemistry stream. And or if you have a person in political science, they have to be in the political science stream. So curriculums, textbooks, all or pedagogy are all connected to subjects. Today, what we are thinking, why can't we extend the boundaries of the subjects and boundaries of the concepts and bringing different levels of learning? First, in the student level. Second, in the professor's level. Third, in the administrator's level. And I feel administration, that is we all, the leaders, have to make that level more important, understanding the situation. And it is extremely important to look for a strategic, dynamic, very dynamic approach to the creation of this knowledge. Because the present generation is a generation which is changing fast. India is sending 13% of the young people in the higher education. Brazil also same, 13 to 14. But from 13%, we have to go up to 20%. So Catholic institutions have a heavy responsibility to create the young group in this dynamic process of knowledge creation, knowledge dissemination. What I'm going to say maybe for the next 2 to 3 minutes on my experience, what we try in the university campus for this interdisciplinarity approach. First thing, we are all divided as different departments and faculties. Faculty of Law, Faculty of Engineering, Faculty of Social Sciences, Faculty of Sciences, and Faculty of Business Studies. So these 5 departments or faculties are asked to send their representatives of the teachers and form a committee of 20 to discuss the issues, not academic issues. Because we consider in the university, preparing the students for a life more than a job is important. So in that concept, we tell those 20 committee members, connect the issues of the life of the students connected to law, connected to engineering, or social sciences or sciences. And we call them under 3 categories. Number 1, personal skills. For example, everybody needs self-esteem. How an engineering student create a self-esteem environment? Similarly, a law student. So the teachers have to create a module for that. And another point is interpersonal skills. How do you connect with the other with a distance? Or how do we respect the other? In the Indian environment, it is extremely important. And the third is social skills. Because, see, higher education institutions, if they are not looking into the situation very clearly, we cannot change the process of learning in the society. So under these three categories, personal skills, interpersonal skills, and social development policies, teachers of law, engineering, sciences, social sciences, and business studies, coming from undergraduate, masters, and PhD, they sit together. It is a committee working for 2 years. And they create the module, and that becomes the part of their curriculum with 1 credit from 1 semester. So postgraduate students should have 2 credits, and all undergraduate students should have 3 credits on this policy. And we were trying for the last 10 years. Of course, in Indian environment, if you tell the teachers, they may be following more clearly. But I find the institution I represent is extremely heterogeneous, because we have Catholic teachers maybe only 20% or less than 50 or 500, and all the other teachers may be from different religions. 2 minutes, yes. This is the way we work. Next level we consider with certificate programs, or what we call the teachers or chemistry department should offer a very important project for the entire institution. For example, pollution. So it is a theme the chemistry department has to offer for the entire university, maybe for engineering students, maybe for law students. How the pollution is affecting the society. It may be social pollution, soil pollution, it may be air pollution, it may be water pollution. And the third level, we are connecting with the research levels of the department. One example or one level of thinking helping the institution is, we find 4 levels of learning in any education. For all of us, the first level of education happens from the parents. Today, after the parents, who are the educators? We were just explaining now, just before me, media and peer. Media and peers, or media and friends, these are the 2 groups influencing up to higher education or even to PhD rather than the teachers. How do we take their influence? So we give an environment for everybody of the students to come for theater or great plays of the famous people of India or anybody. Or we have cultural activities. So what I'm trying to say is interdisciplinarity is very important for the knowledge creation, dissemination, and training of the future people. And that will happen through different levels, depending on the need and depending on the time. Thank you.
Thank you, and I won't take that as a subtle hint. Can I say that it's always a joy to talk in these dialogues at FIUC because the topics are so sophisticated. In fact, the topics are so sophisticated that one spends a great deal of time trying to work out what in fact you are expected to talk about. And I've sometimes wondered if when you get topics like this that the entire conference isn't in fact a secret quiz reality show with Guy Rial TV's compere called Guess Your Topic. So when I saw Dialogue of the Disciplines, I spent some time thinking what that meant, I'm very relieved that it didn't mean one of the things I thought it could have meant, which was something about sadomasochism. And we all seem to be agreed that it's about interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary dialogue. Now, I appreciate that Australians have a cultural reputation about the equivalent of elephants. Both species are known for their directness, and one of the virtues of directness is brevity. So I will be as brief as I can, which means, as I understand by conventions established so far, that I will finish sometime in September. I think that interdisciplinarity is indeed fundamental, but it's fundamental to Catholic universities even more than other universities for a particular reason. And that particular reason is that if you look at the picture of John Henry Cardinal Newman over there, we recall that for Newman the essence of a university was truth. Now today not every university believes that its essence is truth. It can be many other things, but we do believe that. And truth is, by definition, universal, integrated, and unsegmented. So if any university is ever going to be interdisciplinary or transdisciplinary, it should be a Catholic university. Now, of course, as all of us are saying, that's the theory. The reality is hard. We know that our universities operate in things called silos, where as far as possible we avoid talking to each other. Even at my own university, where we have a faculty of philosophy and theology, getting philosophers and theologians to talk to each other is sometimes like trying to persuade a rhinoceros to breed with a Volkswagen. And the progeny can be even more frightening. We know that the loyalties of the silos are all too often with themselves and rather than with the university, and it doesn't matter whether a rector or a vice-chancellor says speak to each other. That doesn't mean it will happen. We know that each silo develops its own language or epistemology to make sure that no one else can understand what they are saying and therefore cannot critique them. And of course, as a lawyer, that is the thing that I am very best at. I can speak languages and words that none of you will understand, but for which I can charge an enormous amount of money. And we also know that when we're trying to get research grants, every government will tell us that they want you to be multidisciplinary, but the moment that you are multidisciplinary, what you will be told is, sorry, we're not sure whether that's history or political science, so you don't fall into either bucket of funding. So it's nowhere near as much fun as it sounds. So having said all of that, I thought I'd try and say at least a couple of hopeful things. Now, I'll only give one example. I'm an Australian, I'm a simple person. We have one number in Australia, it's one, we don't even have many. I think it's important with interdisciplinary initiatives to understand that they're not always at a highfalutin theoretical level. And it's very interesting that many of the examples that Therese and Thomas have come up have been highly practical. It's not all about getting cooperation between scholastic Thomists and nuclear physicists. It can be highly professional and it can have very, very real outcomes. The one I always think of at my own university is in fact a collaboration between medicine and nursing. Now, in Australia, nursing is a highly research-based exercise, which is not always the case, and I understand that. And you might say, well, there's a great deal in common between doctors and nurses. And I might say, you're quite mad. The research of medicine is a research of diagnosis and cure, and the research of nursing, fundamentally, is a research of care. It's a difference between a research of technicality and a research of personality. The reality is, and I hate to break the news to you, that nurses dislike doctors and doctors condescend to nurses. So putting them together is not easy, but remarkably it may occur to you that if you have the most splendid operation done to you, technically perfectly with great physics and chemistry, if you are not cared for, you will still die. So if you are trying to improve that, you need to put the two pieces of research together. Now, in our cardiovascular centre, where we cooperate with the University of Melbourne, a secular institution, the equivalent of Harvard in Australia, St Vincent's Hospital, the best Catholic hospital in Australia, we have doctors working on projects including putting in plastic stents which become biological materials, so they do not need to be removed, and sewing severed hands back on, working as medical researchers with nurse researchers who develop a method of care, with the result that the outcomes of those sophisticated procedures improve by up to 80%. And if that sounds miraculous, what is even more miraculous is we have male medical professors from the University of Melbourne reporting to women nursing professors from the Australian Catholic University. And in also many academic contexts, that is even more of a miracle than sewing a hand back on. In terms of success, you can measure it. You can measure it in terms of patient success. You can also measure it in more venal terms, like the fact that my provost and I yesterday discovered that the Australian government had just made a grant to this program of $8 million. And for those of you from Europe, I think on the last exchange that's about 22 trillion euros. The natural advantages I think we have as Catholic universities also have to be thought through. Many disciplines don't have common assumptions, but all of our disciplines do. We all believe in the intrinsic value of human beings. We all believe in the existence of verifiable truth. We all believe in that verifiable truth based on the person of Jesus Christ. There is a great deal more in common between disciplines in a Catholic university than there typically is in a secular university, which offers great possibilities. One of which is in teaching, one might say, the great project, and this has come up a few times before, the idea that Catholic disciplines, Catholic English, Catholic physics, Catholic chemistry, and Catholic political science are in fact intellectually different from other forms of exactly the same discipline. Can I close on one note, and that is perhaps to talk about a slightly different notion of interdisciplinary dialogue. To most people who are not academics, possibly the two opposite forms of discourse are the practical and the theoretical. I think it's very, very important when we think about anything, including interdisciplinary dialogue, that we understand that while we need philosophy and theory to base ourselves, we have to be ready to move to practical outcomes and results. Again, as all the speakers have said. Now, I'm an Australian. That makes me by race and language an Anglophone, by location and sympathy like Father Thomas an Asian. I'm stuck with a university with 23,000 people and 6 campuses, and 2 of those campuses are separated by 1,500 kilometres. It gives one something of a taste for the practical. And I do think that one of the things we need to be very careful in discussing Catholic higher education is understanding what the practical outcomes are of our very interesting theoretical discussions. In other words, that we not only need a dialogue between disciplines, but we need a disciplined dialogue. Thank you very much.
Very much. Microphones don't like me. I wonder why. We have a change of schedule. There was a workshop to be from 11 o'clock. The bad news is, or the good news is, there will be no workshops. The bad news is we have to sit here and field questions, but there's a time limit at latest until 12:30, and I think we should finish by, 12:15 to give us time for coffee break and for lunch. So, thank you very much for your contributions from 3 different continents on interdisciplinarity. And if you have any additions, comments you would like to make, I invite you to do this. And then I will open the floor to questions and comments from all of you. They prefer to be quiet. So, any one of you who would like to make a comment, have a question, please go ahead. I feel like being in Japan in classroom, if I say, do you have any questions? There were two questions. One is, what's on the exam? The next one is, can I go to the toilet? I'm waiting for hands to be raised.
I have a question. Would you like to go to coffee?
Can I have a motion, raise of hands, everybody in favor of going to a coffee break? Anybody opposed?
Not so many, not so many.
One question. Okay, one question before we go on.
Bonjour, je suis Père Georges Obeika, vice-recteur relations internationales de l'Université Saint-Esprit du Castique au Liban. J'ai suivi avec beaucoup d'intérêt toutes les approches concernant l'interdisciplinarité et la connexion des savoirs. Au niveau de la licence, c'est possible de planter certainement ces interconnexions disciplinaires. Parce que ce que vous gagnez en extension, vous le perdez en profondeur. Au niveau de la licence, la composante de la culture générale interdisciplinaire est indispensable parce que nous travaillons pour la formation de l'homme dans son totalité. Mais au niveau du master, ça deviendrait impossible. Au niveau de PhD, encore très difficile. Mais maintenant, si vous prenez les disciplines en elles-mêmes, dans 20 ans ou bien 30 ans, ça deviendrait impossible d'avoir une approche globale de la discipline elle-même, vu le flux extraordinaire des informations et de recherche dans la discipline elle-même. Donc, dans 20 ans, dans 50 ans, nos approches des savoirs connaîtront une profonde mutation. C'est très beau de dire l'interconnexion interdisciplinaire. Moi, nous sommes pour, certainement, l'intégralité, mais effectivement, ça deviendrait une aventure risquée et impossible.
Ce qui me concerne, j'ai juste une suggestion. Il me semble que ce matin et dans les 2 jours qui ont précédé, beaucoup de questions ont été posées qui pourraient nourrir des sujets pour une prochaine Assemblée générale. Alors, ils ne me viennent pas là tout naturellement et je n'ai en rien à les imposer ou à les susciter, mais on sent bien qu'au niveau des interfaces, y compris la remarque qui vient d'être faite, hein, si j'ai bien compris, est-ce qu'on gagne en profondeur, est-ce qu'on gagne en élargissement? On pourrait ajouter la table ronde précédente et comment les outils là-dedans viennent interférer tant pour les enseignants que pour les étudiants. Je pense qu'on est loin d'avoir terminé de creuser cette importante question.
Okay.
Solari de la Católica Sede Sapiense de Perú. Hace algunos años, Wolfgang Grulke, que es este físico de la teoría del caos que tiene un centro de futurología, hizo una encuesta a las puertas de la crisis económica del 2009 a un conjunto grande de CEOs, y ellos no estaban preocupados por la crisis que iba a venir, estaban preocupados con qué gerentes iban a enfrentar la crisis. ¿A qué me refiero en relación al tema que hemos tratado? Si bien es cierto, la discusión de interdisciplinaridad tiene que ser hecha y estamos haciéndolo, todavía nos falta trasladar la discusión de interdisciplinaridad a una nueva metodología de enseñanza en la que enseñemos a los estudiantes algo que la realidad está exigiendo: saber integrar la información. Nuestros estudiantes están en el mundo, y la universidad también, de un conocimiento cada vez más fraccionado por la hiperespecialización, pero no existen metodologías para integrar el conocimiento. Casualmente, la diferencia entre un decisor que decide rápido y correcto es que integra bien el conocimiento y rápido, y uno que no ha sido entrenado en esa materia no lo puede hacer. Si las universidades católicas, sobre todo, que tenemos otras fuentes, ¿no es cierto?, como ha dicho muy bien el profesor Craven, otras fuentes de sustento de la acción educativa, no podemos en este momento ser ajenas a esta necesidad que está exigiendo el mundo. No tenemos conductores sociales de gran capacidad para integrar conocimiento porque estamos más en la parte cognitiva que en la parte aplicativa de ese conocimiento que nosotros transmitimos. Y la interdisciplinaridad debería traducirse en una acción educativa distinta, no hacia afuera, no académica, sino distinta en la formación de quienes nos han encargado convertir en líderes sociales y buenas personas, como decían en la conferencia anterior. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much for your questions. Thank you very much for my colleagues here. And the word is, we go to lunch.
Pode falar.
Por gentileza, professor Bruno Vandermart. Professor Bruno Vandermart, comparecer à frente ao palco. Obrigada.